Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are glad to have you back on another installment of the NTC Podcast. This is Aaron Washington coming back at you guys as your host. We are extremely happy that you've decided to take a moment of your day to listen to our pod. We really appreciate it. We're hoping you're enjoying the NBA season so far. I know I am. My special guest here today is as well. Fellow podcaster, known for a few years. He does fantastic work over on a pod that is in conjunction with Ballislife. It's called All Things NBA, and this is Zak Noble that is joining me this evening on this podcast as my guest. Zak, really excited to have you on, man. It's been a minute since we've gotten to catch up, link up, talk hoops, but love what you do, man. I saw that you had Jonathan Isaac on the pod recently, so that's awesome. Congrats on that, and congrats on all your success so far. I think you're doing great things, and it's a pleasure to have you, man. So thanks for joining us this evening.
No, man, it's always good to be with you, and it's been a while, so happy to catch up and talk about the exciting season so far. I like to try to jazz it up a little bit because there's a lot of naysayers and negativity going on right now, but I'm enjoying it, though. It's been good.
Awesome, man. I have too. And what's really cool about the NBA now, the past 2 seasons now, is the NBA Cup. So that's where we're going to start our podcast here. We'll get into the new possible All-Star game format later on. But to get this started, Zak, I really just kind of wanted to start this off with a little icebreaker. I wanted to get your thoughts on, a couple of courts here for the NBA Cup that have caught your eye as being aesthetically pleasing. I know last year there was a lot of criticism when it came to the NBA courts. I was one of them, honestly. The courts were hard on the eyes, man. It was, induce. They looked like they were going to induce seizures. There was just a lot going on with the colors and a lot of bright colors, really distracting at times. And looking at the courts this year, it looks like they've dialed it back a little bit. It doesn't seem as in your face. There are still some bright colors out there, some oranges, some reds. There's even a purple out there. But I think overall, the NBA has listened to the fans, and they have done a good job at giving us courts that aren't as crazy, but still different, still unique, still jazzed up, if you will, exciting and all that stuff. So pretty cool stuff, I think, so far from the courts. But want to get your thoughts, man. What are like 1 or 2 courts that have caught your eye and you say, like, I like looking at that court. It doesn't blind me. It's pretty. So what do you think so far when it comes to your favorites?
I'm curious if how many people it actually turns away, because I'm weird. I'm a contrarian a little bit. I've liked them all, honestly. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it's weird. They don't look great. I won't like them permanently, but like, I think it's a good flair and should draw some people in, and you know what it's for. Like, because it's a lot of people are still getting used to it. It's early in the regular season. It's only year 2 of this now. So when you see this, you're like, is it some special event? And all the people that don't know, I mean, I think it should hopefully draw a few more people in. But a couple courts that I really appreciate are the Charlotte Hornets, first and foremost. I mean, I love that. And that one actually looks pleasing to me. Like, I could watch that one all year long. I would say the Phoenix Suns, the Sixers is pretty good. The Knicks with the all orange, and then the Celtics all green. It's a lot. I get it, but those are just 2 brightest that stick out. But like, my favorite definitely is the Charlotte Hornets.
I like it, man. The Buzz City, Charlotte Hornets, their color scheme in general, I think is dope. Every time they do any kind of court uniform, especially when it comes to that hexagonal pattern that they have in a lot of their things, it really catches my eye. So I would agree with that as far as a court that is very good on the eyes. It's something that I appreciate as well. And I also share your thoughts on the Suns. The Suns were actually one of the courts that I highlighted in my notes here as a court that's really, really clean. It kind of gives off the vibes of those. I'm not sure I don't think it was City Edition, but they have their Statement Edition jerseys. I think it's based on that. And that color scheme is really nice, where it kind of has that color on one of the sidelines that kind of blends from yellow to red to purple. Like, that whole scheme right there is really clean. So got to give Phoenix props for that. A lot of what they do is really aesthetically pleasing here recently. I also want to give a shout out to the Raptors.
Yes, there you go. That's a good one.
Yeah. The Raptors court, as far as that purple goes, I love what they're doing this season as far as like trying to pay homage to Vince Carter and the early 2000s era of Raptors basketball with those purples and colors like that. It's a really nice touch. It kind of goes with those new jerseys too, or I guess the old jerseys, they're based on the early 2000s iteration of the Raptors is really cool too.
Our
So
generation, man.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a throwback to some of the best times, or I guess most memorable times in Raptors history when it comes to having Vince Carter on the court and what he did for that team. So really cool stuff, man. I think from those teams specifically, and yeah, overall, I think the NBA did a good job with them. I will say some of those. There's a lot of
What
gray, which I
annoys
don't
you?
say that again.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
That's
okay.
I was gonna say what annoys you. I'd say the one that really turns me off is all the grays. I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
I can deal with the bright colors, and I actually appreciate that because I don't think it throws anybody's game off, which I thought it would a little bit. But any of the bright colors or any colors in general, I haven't seen like a huge range of percentages by any means. But no, I definitely don't like the gray. So we can
yeah.
get away from that maybe.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you, man. Like I'm looking at this now, and there's Magic, Nets, Warriors, Grizzlies, Jazz, Kings, Spurs are all gray. So I mean that's 7 teams right there where they have some kind of a combination of gray, different hues of gray. So yeah, it seems a little bit kind of like they're mailing it in and a little bit unoriginal. But I mean, hey, you can't have it all. If you have some bright colors, you have to have some muted colors as well. So I mean, I get what they're going for, but it does seem a little kind of meh to me. So just wanted to point that out. But yeah, that's how we're going to get this started, man. Let's get into the actual action here when it comes to the NBA Cup, starting with the East, and specifically in the East is going to be Group A. So each group has 5 teams. There's 6 groups in total for 30 teams. And Group A is an interesting pairing. You have the Magic, Knicks, Nets, Sixers, and Hornets in this group. And currently, which is somewhat of a surprise, the Magic are 2-0. They have wins over the Hornets and the Sixers, and they're doing this without their best player. Paolo Banchero has been out with an injury for a few weeks now. Uh, Zach, this team is really impressive because they're doing this without Paolo, but Franz is stepping up in a big way in his absence. The last 7 games for Franz, he's averaging 29 points a game to go along with 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and he's actually top 3 in the Eastern Conference when it comes to scoring in that stretch. So looking at what Franz is doing, look what the whole team is doing. A little bit undermanned. Wendell Carter Jr. is also missed several games. Really cool stuff, and they're still hanging their hat on defense. They're number 3 in the league according to cleaning the glass and defensive efficiency, but they're getting it done at least just enough offensively as well, which is, I think, a testament to the whole team. They're going to be dangerous, man, once they get Paolo back. I can't wait to see what they do fully healthy. Are you at all surprised by what they've been able to do without Paolo in the lineup?
Yeah, I've been very surprised, honestly. Like, Paulo looked really good coming into things, like almost first team All NBA, like on that trajectory, I thought. And I thought they'd go on a bit of a streak here. And yeah, they lost a game or two, but they adjusted pretty quickly. I mean, they don't even, like, to me, Paulo is such not just his scoring, not just his defense, but it's his ball handling, his playmaking, his overall game is just so needed. He's a connector. They don't have a true point guard on that team, so I always thought they'd be fine because of Paulo and Fran's ball handling and playmaking abilities, and then they have a few others on the team that just can balance it out, but. No, it's really surprised me just because Franz has taken it to another level. I kind of had a ceiling on him for a few years. I keep wanting to be more wrong about him, and I am. It's great. Like, I thought he'd be like just a fringe all-star, but now he's turning into like a real all-star, I think, at this pace. We'll see if he can do it with Paolo back as well. It's different. It's only been a couple of games, but it's different. Like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, they put up numbers, but they weren't able to translate to wins last year without Ja Morant. So we'll see if Franz can continue it, but their defense is just so damn good. Like you can't deny like how connected these guys are on offense and defense, but the defense to me has just been flying under the radar, like how important it is when the rest of the league is just scoring at an extremely high clip. They're able to still slow people down in 2024. It's just kind of mind-blowing.
It really is, man. It's a testament to what they've been able to build there over the years. Isaac is, as you know, is one of those anchors there, but it's a team effort. Everybody buys in, from the back court to the front court. The center rotation are all solid defensively, and everybody just kind of knows their role when it comes to like, hey, am I rim protector? Am I a perimeter stopper? Am I going over screens? Am I a connector guy that plays inside and out? Like, regardless of the role, they all buy in. So that's super impressive. And these last two games that they have in the cup are very winnable, I think. I mean, they're playing Brooklyn for their game 3, and then they're playing New York for game 4. So if you look at those two games,
they're looking good.
Yeah, I do think they can end up undefeated in the group here. So looking at Brooklyn as an away game, Brooklyn has been, I think, better than expected, at least defensively or offensively. But they can definitely grab that one. And then New York is going to be a challenge, who we'll actually talk about here in a minute. But if they can get through those games, I mean, I think they have a great chance of making a deep run in the cup, honestly, even without Paolo. If they can get to the knockout rounds here, there's no telling, depending on how things match up, what team they get in that draw. Man, I think things are looking really good for them. So, I mean, considering the situation they're in, I don't think you can ask for much more from the Magic. You're getting that buy-in from Franz. Anthony Black has really had some flashes as well in his second year. So I think there are a lot of positive signs for Orlando, and I think it could continue as the Cup goes on. Those are all great signs for the Magic so far. I can't wait to see how they adjust once Paolo comes back. I think they could be primed for a deep playoff run with everybody healthy, looking at the rest of the season and beyond.
So I still think they need more offense, and that's what I'm going to ask you. Who do you think needs to step up, or where do they need to get more offense from? For me, like, they just need to shoot better from 3. Like, they got to be somehow a top 7 3-point shooting team. I think they could play a couple of guys more minutes. Personally, Jonathan Isaac, one of them. I think truly, I think he can average more, and I think he's a better scorer and shooter when he gets in rhythm and the time on the court. But I mean, guys like Anthony Black could use some more minutes, Cole Anthony even. But yeah, they need to find a way, because 25th, number 1 in defense, and then 25th in offense right now isn't a formula come playoff time. Yes, it could win you around, but you still, I won't get over the fact that defense wins championships again till I see it. It's one of those things, you got to see it to believe it. Yes, you can win with a top 5 to 10 defense, and that's sure it might be better than your offense, but you can't win a championship with a bottom 10 offense. Like, I just don't believe that.
I'm with
or
you.
Go on a deep run, multiple rounds.
100%. I mean, history proves that. If you look at all the teams that have made deep runs, I mean, you look at the Pacers last season, for instance. I mean, they were top 2 offensive team all season long, and they made the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Celtics. I mean, all these teams, they have high octane offenses. And I actually went here and looked up the 3-point percentage for the Magic. You were just touching on that. Dead last in percentage at 31%. So, I mean, you hit around the head, man. They have to be a better shooting team if they want to do anything of consequence this season. And bringing Paolo back is not immediately going to solve that. So they're going to need to find it somewhere. I mean, you bring in KCP, you would think that would boost that up. Hasn't really been the case so far. So hopefully that changes. But yeah, I mean, for the meantime, it's just going to be internal growth, just hoping that guys can get on track. And I think there's a ceiling there. I don't think they're ever going to be an elite shooting team because of the personnel, but if they can at least get out of that bottom third, I think it would help them a lot just in terms of unlocking another level of production. So no, I echo your thoughts for sure, man. That's a good point.
Yeah, Jalen, Jonathan, Cole Anthony, like they're just shooting career low 3-point percentages. But a lot of people in the league, I mean, start slow in the year. I mean, it happens across the league. So
Right.
I expect that to come back to the mean too. They're winning games right now. That's all that matters.
Exactly, man. So, I mean, they're in good shape for sure. And if we zoom out to the rest of the group and look at another team that's also undefeated so far in group play, New York Knicks are doing great things as well. They're in second place because their point differential is only plus 14. The Magic are plus 37. But they have 2 wins so far against the Sixers and the Nets. So they have 2 games left against the Hornets and the Magic. As we stated before, that's going to be a good matchup. But looking at the Knicks, Zach, what's going on here, man? This is a Thibodeau-led team that is making their name on offense, not defense, which is something we're not used to seeing.
Yeah, the Knicks, I mean, they're starting to slowly translate to more wins right now. I mean, when you insert Karl Anthony Towns, it's going to take time to figure out the defensive side of things, but he's an automatic bucket. I mean, especially when you got a spread offense like that. Driving kick guy and Jalen Brunson. The team, honestly, I love the fits from top to bottom. I think the depth is enough. I have no worries about this team figuring it out defensively. They have the personnel. I don't think they need to go out and make drastic changes. Maybe a big man coming off the bench that you could always argue that, but I think they're way better than their defensive rating at 21 right now says they are. Again, it's going to take time on the defensive side to figure things out. The center spot's so important in the NBA on defense. Yes, his rim protecting hasn't been terrible, but there's plenty of other holes right now, and he's a big part of that. But honestly, I like what I've seen the last few games from the Knicks, and they're playing better when it matters in these tournament games, which is fun. And that's one thing I truly believe that this tournament does wonders for the NBA in general. The last 2 years, I've never seen players look so good and teams look so good early in the season. This team looked a little sloppy at first, but that's because they just added arguably their second best player. Actually, not arguable. He is their second best player, but that's going to take some time to gel. But it's interesting seeing Cat back with Tibbs as a lifelong Timberwolves fan.
I forgot about that, man. I forgot that's who you root for over there in Minnesota. So yeah, I'm sure that kind of threw you for a loop when that trade went down between
Oh yeah,
those two.
I'm happy for the guy, but it sucks. He's dominating. We're kind of struggling a little bit, but we're figuring it out too.
But yeah, to keep it on Towns, yeah, I mean his production's been through the roof. 26 points a game, 12 boards. He's shooting 51% from three, over 50% from the field. So I mean his impact on this team is clear. He's already formed a good union with Brunson in those pick and rolls or pick and pops. That's what makes him so deadly is that versatility. So looking at the offensive production and from the both of them is really impressive. But what I think is weighing them down defensively is those two working in pick and rolls on the other side of the floor. So I just saw a graphic the ESPN put up right before the Bucks Bulls game tonight, and that pick and roll defensive duo of Towns and Brunson, I think they mentioned it was the second worst in terms of points per possession in the league, at least among 2-man pairings. So I mean that's pretty rough. Looking at those guys specifically on that end of the floor, and can it get better? I think it can get better. I think it's always going to be a little bit of a sore spot for them, a little bit of a weakness that the other three guys on the court are going to need to work hard to cover for. And I think it does kind of put a little bit of a cap on their defense. I don't know if they're going to return to the top 5 mark that they had last season, just because you add in Cat and, he has his deficiencies and you pair that with Brunson. Those are arguably the two most important positions defensively is the point of attack and rim protection. So if you're working with guys that are average to below average, those positions, it's going to make it hard to get stops consistently. But no, like you said, I mean, they have great camaraderie already. They work well together, and the offense is fantastic. So you look at all those metrics, I think they can definitely make a run. When it comes to the cup standings, they could go undefeated. They have the Orlando and Charlotte matchups here left. But I project them to be more. I think they'll finish 3-1. Win that Charlotte matchup, and then maybe they drop it to Orlando. But 3-1 would still put them in a great position, and still put them second place in the group, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, great things from the Knicks so far. Once they kind of further fortify what they have going on defensively, I think they'll be even better. And I have no problem seeing them in the top 4 of the East, and in a prime position to make a pretty decent run in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So, no, all good things here so far from New York. They're figuring it out for sure. Let's move on here, Zach, to Group B in the East. So, another interesting group here with some teams that are going in different directions. So far, it looks like this is the weakest group of all 6. If I had to kind of put one out there, you have Detroit. They're actually leading the group, believe it or not. Milwaukee in second, followed by the Heat, the Pacers, and the Raptors at the bottom. Let's start at the top, man. The Pistons at 2-0. They've beaten the Heat so far in group play. They've beaten the Raptors. Their last 10 games, they're 6-4. They have a top 10 defense. They're 6th in blocks. And their losses they've had so far are all pretty close. They're not getting blown out. They're not getting embarrassed like they were last season, right out of the building. This is a solid team, and things have changed. You're not going to be able to just roll over these guys. They have better coaching here and Bickerstaff. They have the vets that have come in and had a great impact, like Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris. And on top of that, Cade Cunningham and Ivy are starting to figure it out as well. So you add all that together, and this is a solid basketball team. And, man, I got to say, I'm so happy for Pistons fans that they've gone through the ringer, man, the past 10-plus years. So seeing a team that's even 500 and in position to win a group in NBA Cup, awesome stuff, man. I mean, I'm so impressed by what they've done so far this season. Even though it's early, they're a much better basketball team.
Absolutely. I second everything you just said, but I think this is why the NBA Cup was created, to give opportunities to teams like this where you don't need to show strength and greatness over an extended season. You can surprise some people and have some early success and give your fan base joy early on. And I love it. And it brings a lot of competitiveness early in the season. Yes, it also gives young guys and young teams the opportunity to learn how to compete in important games like it did the Pacers last year. You saw it translate to the postseason as well. So I thought it was great. And I hope this sticks around for a long time and people understand what it's really doing for the NBA, because I have, and I've been watching the NBA nonstop, every team for the longest time, like my whole life. And this is the most competitive it's ever been. For Pistons fans, yes, I'm ecstatic for them. They actually look like a coherent basketball team. They have a pulse. JB Bickerstaff will put a pulse in just about anybody. But honestly, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., their resurgence has really, I mean, I didn't expect a ton out of them. I thought they would help. But they've both, I mean, right around 40% from three, and they're playing big minutes, both of them. They're spreading the floor out. Their defense has been better than their offense. I wouldn't have guessed that this early on, but that's good to me. Like, I think this is a team that their offense will only get better. Defense, I mean, it's going to be tough as you're playing guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley, Jaden Ivey, that many minutes. I just don't think any of those guys are positive defenders. Cade is hit or miss on that end of things, but if they can remain in the top 10 where they are right now, they definitely can compete all year. It's just they got to get the offense to at least top 17. Shooting wise, they're fine. To me, I think it's more about, like, I like the way their pace is. I think it's more about just playing together as a team. They're not like necessarily team-oriented players. And when you got Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, I mean, those guys aren't even great connectors. They're more scoring guys, hot or cold guys type of thing. But Cade and Jaden, Amen, it's Amen, right? Not Austin. Yeah, Amen. is with the
It's
Pistons.
bizarre. Amin is
It's Asar. Okay.
Houston.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always get those two mixed
It
up.
happens.
But both are looking pretty good. And I expected that. Ron Holland, he hasn't done anything, so they got some upside there possibly. But no, I really like the way they're trending. I don't still see a ton of upside in this team. Like, I think though, if they could hover around above like 35 wins, just right below 500, that'd be an amazing season for them.
100%. I mean, you got to remember, I mean, they came off the worst season in franchise history last season, one of the worst records in NBA history. So 35 wins coming from that, I'd say it's a successful season. if I'm a fan, management, whoever, that's a huge improvement on wins. I mean, we're talking about over 20 wins improvement year over year. So that's really impressive stuff. And yeah, I'm with you. I think they top out as a fringe playing team. I think that's where they're going to end up. But I mean, hey, give them credit. They've worked hard to create stability there. That's the first step. You just have to create something that's sustainable, something that's stable, and then from there you can start to build a contender. But they've made the first big step, and that's super impressive. Another team in here in this group that's been been okay, not great, not terrible, which is about the norm for them. Wanted to touch on Miami here real quick. Looking what they've done, they lost their first cup game, which was to Detroit. They dropped that one in epic fashion. I try to forget about that game as much as I can. That was rough, man. That yeah, that's gonna haunt me for a while as a Heat supporter. But you got that second game, which was a win against the Pacers, and that was a convincing win. Man, my main takeaway, Zach, from this team is just like I don't know who they are. One game, it looks like that typical Heat culture type of vibe where you're getting contributions from the entire team. Everybody's locked in defensively. The offense is enough to get by. You're shooting the ball well. And then the next game, it's like, who are these guys? Bam has had some very, very bad stretches during the season. I think overall he's been way down from what we saw last season or what I expected to see from him. There's been a few injuries here. They made some lineup changes. Jovic has been moved to the bench. Terry Rozier has been moved to the bench, which I think is a positive in terms of the rotation. But yeah, it's just a lot of ups and downs. And the way this team looks right now, I wouldn't say they're a contender. I wouldn't say they're a top four in the East. I'd say they're somewhere between 5 and 8 right now, if I had to guess, maybe even 9. Just because there's no consistency from game to game. Jimmy goes up and down, Bam goes up and down. So I mean, they're going to need to really stabilize that if they want to make any kind of run this season. And they have 2 cup games left here against the Bucks, who have had a rough start, but they're looking better for sure. And then the Raptors, who they should definitely beat. But if I've learned anything about this Heat team, they can beat anybody, but they can lose to anybody. So I don't know, man. I don't know where they're at, but you got any thoughts on them so far and what they've been doing?
They're honestly in no man's land right now. Like, it's fine this early in the year. It doesn't matter that much as long as you're right around 500, especially Miami. Like, if it was anybody else like that had decent expectations, I'd be a little bit worried for playing the way they're playing. But Tyler Hero is the bright spot. He's looking excellent. But honestly, that no matter how good Tyler Hero looks, like, he's not nearly as important as Bam and Jimmy. And they needed the growth out of Jaime Jaquez, which hasn't been coming at all, which is unfortunate. I thought this team had a little bit of upside if Terry Rozier had a bounce back year and Jaime really blossomed this year. But, I mean, he's shooting good from 3. It's just, I think I wanted to see a little more scoring out of him, 12 to 15-ish. But maybe minutes are holding him back. They just got to unleash him a little bit. He's only averaging 23 minutes per game. Bam, I don't know what's going on him, and he's probably just following Jimmy's lead of being lackadaisical and just chilling for a little bit. Let's hope that's the case for you guys. But honestly, yeah, they're just mediocre everywhere right now, and it's got to be driving Spoelstra nuts. He's a guy that strives for excellence, and I don't know. They're 500, which is fine, like I said, but like they're not great anywhere. I mean, they're good. They're great at their 3-point percentage is good. And stealing the basketball. They got good hands right now. But honestly, it doesn't look good. They're definitely my bottom 5 teams to watch right now. And that's with Tyler Harrell looking really good. Like, and he can be fun, but I think he's only fun when the rest of the team's good. Like, he's not Cam Thomas fun to me. If you're on a shitty team and just going ballistic, there's only a couple of guys like that can pull that off. And Tyler is not one of them, unfortunately, but he's a great complimentary piece. And honestly, I'm just going to throw this out there because I know you're a Heat fan and maybe give you a little bit of joy. But if the Bucks keep struggling, even though I think they're turning it around and they will, just because Giannis is so dang good, and I don't think Dame's gassed out yet. But if they do struggle, if I'm Milwaukee, I'm getting rid of Dame so quickly, and I think Miami's literally one of the only teams that would take a flyer on him, and maybe he could be rejuvenated with Jimmy and Bam again. I don't know. What do you think about that? Would you want that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point, I would welcome any kind of change. Yeah, exactly. Why not, man? I mean, that's I love that saying, by the way. I love that you have that in your bio, and that's like, one of your main sayings, like, hey, give it a shot, man.
Right.
See what happens. I mean, they could use the offensive boost. I mean, they try to get that from Terry, but like you said, he's been very underwhelming this season. And they made a run at him about a year or so ago, but that didn't work out. So I mean, why not try to get him this time and change something? Because I think the roster's just gotten stale. They've counted on internal growth from for every season, it seems like, for the past 2 or 3 years, and it's happening here and there. But overall, I think you need some kind of infusion of something new. Things are just gotten bland, man. Just straight up, I think it's just gotten bland, and it's the same old stuff. So time for a change. And yeah, to answer your question, yeah, they got to be open to it. Even though this is an older guy, give it a shot, man, because the window's closing here with Jimmy getting older. Go for it. See what happens. So no, I'm with that. Yeah, let's roll on to the last group here in the East. In my opinion, this is the best group in the East so far. I mean, really, because they have the 2 best teams in the East right now. You're looking at the Celtics and Cavs. They're leading the charge here in the Eastern Conference in first and second place. And this group consists of those 2 teams plus the Hawks and the Wizards and the Bulls. So it's actually an interesting blend because you have 2 teams at the top. You have 1 team in the middle in the Hawks, and you have 2 teams closer to the bottom of the league. The Wizards are actually at the bottom. So yeah, from top to bottom, maybe it's not the best group, but they definitely have the 2 best teams in the conference. And they had a pretty epic duel yesterday, the Celtics and Cavs, which the Celtics ended up taking that game, 121-17. But I think my main takeaways from Boston, I think they're still incredibly dangerous. They're still a prime contender. They've looked really good without Porzingis, and they've gotten some guys to chip in the middle to make up for that. Kata has been really solid. And then also Horford. For some reason, Horford just ages like fine wine. He just continues to just be really impressive, even though he's one of the oldest guys in the league. He still gets it done. So he had a great game yesterday. And I think Tatum took this whole storyline of the whole summer, the DMPs and the Olympics. He took it all personally because he's been red hot, man. I mean, I think this is the best ball I've seen from Tatum in his career so far. Dropping 30-point bombs left and right. The three-pointer is back on track. He's getting to the rim consistently. He's finishing well. He's aggressive. So I think if Tatum plays like this the whole season, they get Porzingis back. I mean, I don't even know if the Cavs will be able to top them if they're playing like this, as good as they've looked, man. So yeah, really impressive stuff from Boston. They're as good as advertised. They're not at the top of the East, but they're still right there, man. They're still incredibly deadly. So, man, 53 pointers a game. How about that?
That's insane. And a lot of people are getting sick of the 3 ball, but honestly, when you do it that well and it just looks great because it's so fast and they play perfectly together, that's unselfish brand of basketball, and it's efficient. The ball goes in the hole. Like, I don't know how you can't enjoy that. I mean, for me, like, yes, I'm a person that loves variety. I like watching the old, I mean, whether it's DeMar DeRozan or just mid-range guy in Chris Paul or the Magic, and just different styles of basketball, Domantas Sabonis, you name it. But like, I'll find those spots and appreciate them maybe a little more. But I just like greatness in general, so I'm going to appreciate whatever brand of basketball that we see, as long as it's great and guys are getting better. That's what I enjoy. The Celtics, honestly, they look just as good, if not better, than last year already, and Tatum's the main engine behind that. I mean, his playmaking's sharper. He's just playing intentional basketball from the tip every game. You're right. He seems like a man on a mission. Best 3-point percentage since his third year in the league, and the volume's up way, way much. Four attempts a game, and honestly, he's definitely top 3 in MVP right now. I just think that Porzingis, like, would put this team in another stratosphere if he's at his peak. We still haven't seen it for a long stretch of time. I want to see it really bad because I think they have what it takes to be an all-time squad on both ends of the ball, and they need him to do it, obviously. And I've always worried about their depth a little bit, but like you named it, Kata's looking pretty decent, surprisingly, and Al Horford ages excellent. But Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard are killers out there. Like, Hauser's been a little hit or miss recently, but I mean, I believe he has big games when they need him to. And Pritchard, man, he can start on so many teams, I think. I just think he's just a hooper through and through. And Joe is definitely a top 3 coach of mine. But honestly, when it comes back to the Cavs, they look so much better in a more structured offense. Kenny Atkinson already has made a team that just was like surviving off talent and defense to a team that's polished on offense, to a team to get a guy like Donovan Mitchell to play more team basketball and take a step back to sacrifice for the elevation of Darius Garland and Evan Mobley. Like, that's what they needed. We've seen Donovan Mitchell. You can argue maybe the teams Donovan Mitchell's had in the past weren't good enough, which I will argue that a little bit. But I also don't think he's a guy that's good enough, especially in the playoffs. He takes a little step back, as do most players. But I just don't think he's good enough to be that far ahead of the next 2 and 3 guys to even compete for a championship. So in order for that team to be at their best, they needed this to happen, and to do it this quickly, it's amazing. I've been banging on the Kenny Atkinson drum ever since he got fired. I've been a big fan of his, and he's got his fingerprints all over this offensively. It looks awesome. I wish, I would have died to have him in Minnesota. I still would, because I think that sloppy offense would look polished like Cleveland does, and guys would play way better together. But yeah, I mean, if you got defenders, you can get them to play defense, no matter if you're a defensive coach or not. But Kenny Atkinson, man, shout out to him, coach of the year right now.
Shout out to Kenny, man. I second that. He's been fantastic, and we talked at length about the Cavs in our last podcast with Ty Windish, and he hosts the Gyro Step podcast for the Bucks. But yeah, man, I mean, they've been super impressive so far. I really just cannot believe that they're a top 3 offensive team. That blows my mind. And there aren't many things that I see in the NBA anymore that like literally like cause me to like have trouble comprehending it. But this is one of those things that is truly incredible, because you look at their lineup and you have 2 big guys in there. You have the Twin Towers lineup, and neither of them shoot the 3 at a high level. One of them shoots 0 threes, or just about. And you look at that and you're like, there's no way this team could be an elite offensive unit. But with the way that Garland's been playing and Donovan's settling into a more of a complementary role, as you mentioned before, and Ty Jerome just going off, man. I mean, he's been so impressive off the bench. Karis LeVert's still doing his thing. across the roster, I mean, they're just playing more modern basketball, more threes, more tempo, more possessions across the board. They're just playing better basketball for 2024. So yeah, shout out to Atkinson and shout out to all these guys just making strides in their game. I like Mobley, just taking at the defense even more aggression, being more willing to look for his own shot. I think that all kind of plays into why they've been so good. And for the rest of the cup, I'm excited to see which one of these teams can kind of separate themselves. They both have 2 games left. They have to catch the Hawks that are at 2-0. So I mean, the
That'd be an
Celtics have.
upset, man.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. That was a crazy upset. You're right. The Hawks taking down the Celtics in that first cup game was super impressive. Shout out to them for that one. They just threw a whole wrench in this group. Um, but I mean, the Celtics have an easy path to ending 3-1. They have games against the Wizards and the Bulls. They should be able to take both of those. And then the Cavaliers have the Hawks, who they can't take lightly because they did beat the Celtics in that first game, and the Wizards for their last game. So we'll have to see how this goes. I think the differential for tiebreakers, that's another thing, man. I think is great about the cup is it keeps teams playing for 48 minutes because point differential is so important. It's the primary tiebreaker. So you can't just say like, oh, the game is out of reach, we're going to stop playing. Everybody has to go hard to the final buzzer because I mean, hey, you miss out on a few points here or there at the end of the game, that can down your differential and you can lose out on a tiebreaker and not make the knockout rounds. So for the Hawks, Celtics, and Cavs, every game is going to be important from the jump to the final buzzer because you have to separate yourself in terms of the point differential. So I like that too, man. That's a nice little wrinkle that makes these games even more competitive, even more interesting, and gives us a lot of action for the entire length of the game. So let's swing around, man. We have the East covered. We're hitting the West now. So we have Group A in the West. You guys are out there, man. Minnesota's out there trying to make their way through Group A, which features the Timberwolves, the Blazers, the Rockets, the Kings, and the Clippers. All these teams have played, all except the Timberwolves have played 1 game. The Timberwolves have 2 games under their belt. Let's go ahead and start with Minnesota, actually, man, since we're already kind of talking about them. They're 1-1. They lost the game against Portland for their first cup game. A little bit of a surprise. And then they took the second game against the Kings to put them at 1-1 in the group. So, yeah, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but the Timberwolves have looked good at times and not so good at other times. The biggest development, I think, flat out, is Ant-Man upping his three-point frequency to, quite frankly, an insane level. This is a guy that I did not see taking this many threes per game whatsoever. So, I mean, with a guy like Ant-Man that's as explosive, athletic as he is, he went from 6.7 three-point attempts last season per game to 11.3. I mean, this is a mark that used to be reserved for the Currys and the Clays of the world. Now you have Ant-Man shooting 11 threes per game. To be fair, he is hitting 42%. So he is hitting those threes. Otherwise, it'd be really annoying to see him chuck up 11 a game. But he's at 28 points a game as a result. He's definitely in the top 5 to 10 in the league in terms of points per game. And yeah, overall, this team, I think they're still trying to kind of find their way. You introduce Randall, you take away Towns. That's a massive change in your rotation and your play style. So guys are still trying to get accustomed to that. I can tell during games. I think they're still a great team, but I think they need more time to iron things out between Ant-Man changing his play style and Randall trying to find his place and introducing some other guys into the fold, like Rob Dillingham. A lot of moving parts, and yeah, just trying to get a feel for how things are going to go here, man. So, is that what you've kind of noticed so far, just watching the Wolves and how they've been operating through a dozen games or so?
Yeah, I mean, that resonates with me. I would say, to me, it's just our upside right now isn't there. I haven't seen any sort of upside to think that this team is going to be good enough when it's all said and done yet. But I think the talent's on the roster. It's just it's not necessarily they got to come together. You're right. They got to play more Rob Dillingham. We got to figure out what he has. And then the other guy, Jaden McDaniels, man, just hasn't taken a leap like we needed. And I've said the last few years, like regardless of who you have around him, whether it's Cat Julius, Dante DiVincenzo, it's all going to be about how good Ant and Dante get. I think it's more impactful when Ant's driving to the hole, honestly, and driving just accruing more fouls, even though he is shooting great from three. Like the team's shooting excellent from three. Like I like what we're doing there. At the same time, it's just we're too average across the board, I'd say. You name it, the category outside of 3-point percentage, like we're just too much in that 10 to 15 range, where last year we were elite defensively from the jump, so we could always hang our head on that, and we survived off talent offensively. But like you'll get guys that just aren't getting enough offensively, and then they don't play well together, so they're fighting back, being down too often lately. And Dante DiVincenzo and Jaden McDaniels are the guys they need more from. Rob, I mean, yes, he's a big upside play. It's just I don't think we're going to see it this year anyways, even though I'd like to see it. I think he could play 15, 20 minutes in some games, but Chris Finch isn't doing it. So unfortunately, I don't know how long that's going to go on for, but it's very rare a number 8 pick doesn't get good tick, this is also the deepest team in Timberwolves franchise history, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like Terrence Shannon, I like him. Like Luka Garza, he could play him. Yeah, no, he could play even more, but it's strange and it doesn't look great. But I mean, we still got fun players. Games are interesting, I'll tell you that. It's just we've been known to be a weird team the last few years, and a lot of it's because it's just not pretty basketball, but we have talent, so I'm not going to argue that. And again, like I say that, and there's really only like, besides the Celtics, there's the Warriors have looked really pretty at times, a brand of basketball, the Mavs, like there's only a couple teams every year that look beautiful on the court, like consistently, the Denver Nuggets have in the past, not necessarily this year, but yeah, you got to get used to long season. It's gonna look ugly at the individual greatness.
I'm with you, man. It's definitely been a weird ride so far, and this is the risk you take when you make a trade like that, trading a guy like Towns and bringing in Randall. You kind of upset the balance of the team. It's not like you're trading away, like a Terrence Shannon or somebody like that. I mean, that plays spot minutes. You're trading a guy that plays 35 plus minutes a game and he was a franchise centerpiece for a long time, and he was your second best player, and he made a deep run with him. So I mean, things are going to be different, and it doesn't just click overnight, regardless of the other players on the roster or how good the coach is. It's going to take time for guys to gel, and I think they'll get there, and they're going to be solid. I don't really see them making a deep run in the playoffs again, but I do think they are a top 4 team in the conference, and I think they can definitely clean up some things to give them a better shot. A team that they're competing against in the group that's been pretty impressive so far is Houston. And, this Houston team, man, I looked at them coming into the season and I was like, yeah, I think they'll be like 7-8, somewhere in that range. I mean, recently they looked even better than that. They did take a loss recently, but I mean, before that, they were on a huge roll. So I think they stand at, I want to say about 10-5 now. And they've gotten really good production from pretty much every position. The wings, you're looking at Tari Eason, looking at Thompson, Amin Thompson, Van Vliet, Jalen Green in the backcourt, Sengun. Jabari Smith has been, I think, kind of mid this season, but I mean, Sengun's getting his groove back. Bringing in Steven Adams off the bench, I think, is a huge plus for them, that experience and just ruggedness. So I think overall they're a really solid team. And I think they've started to kind of build a foundation on the defensive end of the floor. Right now, according to Cleaning the Glass, they're number 2 in defense. So, I mean, with a stingy team like that, able to generate a lot of steals and get blocks, just all those good things defensively gives them a great chance of being a great team, at least in the regular season. we'll have to see how the playoff picture plays out. But I mean, yeah, right now they're 1-0. They beat the Clippers, and they have a winnable game against Portland coming up. They do play Minnesota in game 3, and then they have the Kings in game 4. So, I mean, I think they're in the race to win the group, but it will be tough because all 5 teams in this group are pretty solid. So they're going to have to work for it. But yeah, I've been impressed by the Rockets here so far. I think they're kind of like a dark horse to kind of get into the playoffs and kind of be scrappy in the first round. But what do you think about these guys, Zach? Do you like what the Rockets have been doing so far? And do you think this is sustainable for them?
Absolutely. So I said before the year, this is like one of the greatest young cores rosters like ever drafted, you can say, just upside wise. And I thought they had a major issue because they had too much talent. They're doing a great job right now, balancing it. But is it maximizing anybody? I'm still a little torn on that. Like, you still need an A player and a B player, and I still don't know if they want to go the Jalen Green way or the LP way. And neither one of them, like, they're both looking good, but neither one of them look like the head of the snake. I mean, right now they just look like a really scrappy, I don't know, college basketball team like UConn, where they can go a lot of different ways, and they're always going to be great defensively. They're always going to be gritty and fight till the end. And Ime Udoka, it's his brand of basketball, but they have a ton of offensive talent, and they haven't figured out which way they want it to roll yet, I think, which is fair early in the season. At least they're identifying themselves defensively, and they're developing players, just not maximizing them yet. Like, their minutes, like Jalen Green leads with 32, and it goes down to Reed Shepherd with 11, which he needs way more than that, in my opinion. Cam Whitmore only has 10, and yes, his numbers aren't great, but like, he's a guy that, I mean, much like Jaden Hardy, or I don't know, that I could name it, Shaden Sharp, like, they're guys that need a lot of minutes to show their worth. And they're not just guys that are like sharp shooters where, I mean, Garrison Matthews is going to come in. You only need a couple of minutes to prove your worth, guy they've had in the past. I believe in this team, their upside, their coaching, the way they're playing together. I just think their minutes need to be figured out and their style of offense.
Yeah, no, I would echo that for sure. They need to kind of figure that out. And yeah, I mean, it's a decision they're going to have to kind of figure out eventually. But I think as far as right now, they're in a good place and got good vibes going, and they're winning games. So I think for now they're in a good place. But yeah, going forward, they're going to need to kind of refine things a little bit, streamline the rotation because, yeah, I mean, you got Cam Whitmore like getting DNPs. You have Reed Shepherd playing low minutes. Jayshawn Tate is a solid player. He doesn't hardly get any run anymore. So, yeah, top to bottom, they're super deep. But you made a good point earlier. There's like too much talent there. And at some point, they're going to need to cash in, consolidate, find a star if they don't believe one is on their team already, so they can make that next step. So that's definitely, I think, the next step, the next phase for the Rockets here in the coming years. Let's hit one more group here, Zach, before we head over to the new All-Star format. Want to hit West Group B, and one team in particular in West Group B. They lead the group right now. So you have the Lakers at 2-0, followed by the Thunder, the Spurs, the Suns, and the Jazz. So this is a feisty group as well. But looking at the Lakers at 2-0, yes, not the best competition. They played the Spurs and they played the Jazz. They played the Jazz last night, got a good win against them. They have a good but not great point differential at plus 11, so they're going to need to continue winning games if you want to get out of this group. But looking at their recent games, I've been pretty impressed. I mean, Dalton Connect has been fantastic. He had 37 points in last night's game against Utah, looking like the perfect sharpshooter that the Lakers needed going into the season. Their huge weak point going into this year was shooting. Just getting the number of attempts and then getting percentage up, he's helped in both those fronts. So having a guy that's just a willing gunner But unlike D'Angelo, can actually hit consistently. I mean, D'Angelo is just all over the map, and that's why he's gotten benched here recently. But Connect coming in there and just being a guy that can just run off screens, just be a pure shooter, he's a perfect fit with a LeBron-led team, LeBron and AD. With the gravity of those two command, Connect is right at home. He's doing great things right now. My big concern, Zach, and I want to see if you feel the same way. They rely so much on LeBron and AD for production from night to night. AD is playing fantastic. He's an MVP candidate. LeBron's defying the odds. Almost 40 years old, still producing at a crazy level. That's all great. But I mean, man, if one of those guys drops their play a little bit, if one of them goes out, I mean, I don't trust the rest of the roster enough to be able to back them up and to fill in the gaps if something were to happen with those guys, especially if when the schedule gets tougher, because their last two cup games are against the Suns and the Thunder. And the Thunder just got back as the Hardenstein. So, I mean, you got some pretty good competition coming up. So that's where I
Yeah,
worry.
watch out.
Watch out, man. They're coming. But that's my worry with the Lakers is, what happens if those two pillars start to decline in any kind of way? I think they can be in trouble here. Do you agree with that at all? Do you disagree? How do you feel about the
100%.
Lakers overall?
Yeah, I mean, if you were able to guarantee LeBron and AD would play this level all year, like this team could do it. We haven't seen it since they won 4 or 5 years ago now. And my thing is, yes, keep developing Dalton Connect. I love that they inserted him so quickly into the lineup. I love that he's getting his opportunity. He's exactly what they needed. You're dead on about that. But they need more. And a rookie, it's very rare a rookie does so much for the winning of a team. So keep riding it. Yeah, keep developing this guy. But at the same time, you can't hold your head waiting for this guy to be your saving grace here. I mean, Austin Reeves still has more to give. Even like keep relying on him and Dalton. Go to Rui a little bit and see if Rui can give you a little more. Even D'Angelo, I don't know. There's so much rumors about him being gone and everybody wanting him out, but yeah, they could use a little more defense. That would definitely lighten the load. But we've been saying that forever, and they haven't been able to bring anybody in. Cam Reddish was good for a little bit, showed some signs, but I don't think he's got it right now, or if he's enough, period. So Vanderbilt, maybe. I would need to see this in beginning of April to even remotely believe in this team as a true contender, because especially the way D'Angelo's playing, their only chance is their depth. And I don't know. AD's been incredible. He's been great. Dalton Connect. I said Dalton could be the best player in this draft. I'm looking good on that. And I'm just super happy he's getting his opportunity because he didn't know that he would. But yeah, I want to capitalize on this AD season. This is a rare thing. It's just like, how do you do that? It's going to be tough because they don't have much to move right now. D'Angelo's not worth much. Rui is worth a little bit. I mean, Jeremy Grant would be great. I mean, that's where I would say to start. Maybe get Paul George back in LA and let them struggle with him. But man, it's a tough reach for sure. I hate wasting excellent years like this, and JJ's coaching his ass off. He's doing great. I love seeing it, but I don't believe it until late. I won't hold no matter how many wins they have during the regular season, you can't talk me into that.
That's unfortunately that's where I'm at too. I'm very skeptical about a long-term run just because I mean it's great what they're doing, but I mean, man, like that much pressure on two players, I don't know if it's that sustainable either from just a strictly like basketball standpoint, just on court perspective, or like a health perspective. Like those guys just doing what they're doing, especially with the way Davis's injury history and then LeBron with just his age. Like, man, you want to ride these guys, of course, but at some point, somebody else needs to kind of start to carry the load. And yeah, we've seen Reeves be capable of that in spurts for sure, and Hachimura's had some great moments, but I mean, they're not guys you want to rely on to go get you 20 plus every night per se. So we're going to have to see kind of how much they can sustain this, especially with against the upper level teams. I don't think they're as proven against the best teams in the league right now. When they play Boston, when they play Cleveland, when they play OKC, those are the tests I want to see them pass before I start to get excited about them making a deep playoff run at all. So I'm definitely with you on that one. So to close out this podcast, Zach, I would love to cover the other groups, but I don't want to keep you too long. We have the new All-Star format that's being proposed here by the competition committee of the NBA. So Shams reported not too long ago that they're considering a new 4-team tournament for the 2025 All-Star game. So it'd be 3 teams of 8 All-Stars each. So that's 24 players. That's the same amount of players that we've had total for the All-Star game. It was usually 2 teams of 12. Now it would be 3 teams of 8. Plus 1 team strictly of Rising Stars players. So the winner of the Rising Stars competition would move on and participate in the actual All-Star game. So this idea is very interesting. I didn't expect something like this to happen. First off, they need to do something because the All-Star game for the past few years, but especially last season, was disgraceful. I was appalled by what I was seeing in the All-Star game. So the fact that they're looking to change it at all, I'm in favor of that. Now, this format specifically, I don't know, because at the end of the day, it's a tournament. You still have all-stars playing in a game. So when you get to the final game of this tournament, it's the same. It's almost the same thing, except you have less players on the team. So you have 8 players instead of 12. So that naturally means I think players going to play more minutes. And I don't know if that's what they necessarily want. Sure, if you get knocked out in the first round, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. But if you make the finals and there's 8 players that can heighten the playing time a little bit for everybody, the Rising Stars team, I have no problems with that. I think they're going to be great. They're going to want to make a name for themselves and really come out with fire. But the All-Stars, I don't know if it's going to address the key issue that we've had with the All-Star game, which is guys giving enough effort in that game. So those are my first initial thoughts of it. And, it could work out. Who's to say for sure? But I still have some concerns. But overall, Zach, are you in favor of this, or do you have some reservations of your own?
I'm pretty against it, to be honest. I wish I could give you more emphatic excitement, but I'm not bringing that on this one. I will say I love it for the Rising Stars. One, they have more to prove.
Yes.
They're naive, they're young, they're trying to show the world who they are and get out there. And they haven't been around as long. And so it's worked every year. I love it in the Rising Stars. This isn't going to change anything except the team that plays the Rising Stars. I think that's an interesting wrinkle. Yes, they don't want to be the team that loses to the young guys and have that trash talk. But at the end of the day, I don't know if they'd care that much. Also, the fun with the All-Star game is the best players in the world playing together and playing against each other. Okay. It's not beating on young guys that they should beat on. I think that would turn even more people away, to be honest. It'd be too gimmicky. And honestly, it's never the format. It's not the format. It's the attitude. They need dogs in there. They need somebody to fire something up. They've been too subordinate to LeBron and submissive, you can say, to just going chill and having fun and being laid back. And I don't blame LeBron. He's done this a million times, but somebody's got to go in there and stir the pot up and just start some shit and be a dog. I think we thought Ant could do it a little bit. He didn't do it last year, but he is a little bit of a goofball too. And he just shows he wasn't going to be that guy. Luka, I think he could, but I don't know. Wemby will. I do believe in Wemby's mentality yet. I think he's earning his spot rightfully this year, hopefully. But those 3, I think there's a chance. And then Jason Tatum, I could see it. But yeah, they got to go in there and compete and just not be scared and rattle some feathers a little bit,
Exactly.
and just play. They don't have to play the hardest they've ever played. I'm not asking for that. Just a tad bit harder than the 40, 50% they're giving right now. If we can get just 70, 80%, at the end of the day, that would be a blessing.
Dude, you said everything that I've been thinking about this All-Star game ever since the last one happened last season. I'm like, guys, we're
Love
not
it.
asking you to play 40 minutes and go for every single loose ball and try to get these chase down blocks in transition. You don't have to pour your heart out. We get it. It's exhibition game. But at the same time, if there's no resistance, if there's
Right.
no real effort, if guys don't care, if they're throwing up half court shots, if they're trying to just have a personal dunk contest in the middle of the game. I mean, this is stuff you would see from like uh the celebrity all-star game, where guys are literally just there to
Yeah, it's
just like,
childish, man. It sucks.
yeah, exactly. Like it's just a showcase for themselves to get views or whatever. Like, I mean, it should mean more than that. And you touched on one of the points I made for this section specifically. This further widens the gap between what the All-Star game was and what it currently is. And I mean, exactly what you said. It used to be, hey, East, West, get after it. East wants to beat the West, vice versa. We have rivalries, we have guys going at each other. And, for a short time, we got that back, at least like in the end of the game, but now it's just completely gone. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think there's only two ways that this can be fixed. One, the guys just care, just want to go out there and give us a good performance. It's a mindset thing. You just got to want it. The other solution is to, I would say, yeah, change the format, but completely. Don't just like change the number of games or like make it tournament style. I would
Right.
say just completely eliminate the All-Star game and replace it with something else. What that is exactly, I'm not sure. There's been talks of something else taking its place. There's this whole movement of like, hey, let's have a one-on-one competition. Let's have, king of the court type of thing, which, I don't know if they go for that, but I think the fans will love it. I think those are the only two ways that this gets fixed. And
I
this
still think
idea,
go
yeah.
for it. Finish.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I just think that this idea is cool. I mean, it could have merit, especially for the rising stars. But I mean, it's just you're taking care of a symptom. You're not curing the actual condition. You're not solving exactly what is wrong with the game itself.
Absolutely, man. And I think the only format issue you could change would be literally making it like baseball, home field advantage. I think that is like try it 1 year. Try it 1 year and see what happens. If it works, sweet, keep it for a little bit. The great thing is you can change it year after year and try to get it right. But this mentality has been going on for, I don't know, 5+ years now.
Time for something else, man. Time for something else. So yeah, those are our thoughts. That's what we think, and we'll just have to keep an eye on this and see if this changes anything. I really hope it does, because it's been a joke, man. It's been a tough watch.
Terrible.
So that's about all I got, Zach. I know it's getting late. I don't want to keep you too long. But thanks again for jumping on the pod. It's been a great conversation talking about the Cup. It's really exciting. I love what they're doing so far. So great to get your thoughts on it, as well as this all-star format. We have concerns about this stuff, but I think at the end of the day, we're just really hopeful that we get a good product on the basketball court every night, whatever form that takes. Zach, I want to give you a chance to be able to let the listeners know where they can find you. If they want to listen to your podcast, they want to link up with you. Where can they find you on socials and all that?
Yeah, you got it. Zak Noble, ZakNoble. That's my Twitter handle. Really, it's All Things NBA is our podcast. We just did a show with Jonathan Isaac. We've had Cassie Hubbard, a bunch of people from ESPN, and getting more players coming up here, growing at a good rate. Chris and Albert, great follows on Twitter as well. Get at us. Appreciate any subscribes and any feedback on our show. We're trying to grow that. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. Great conversation, and anytime.
Love it, Zach. Guys, go follow Zach and check out what he's doing. He's doing great things. And be sure to hook up with them before the season starts. He does an annual tradition of ranking the players in the NBA. Love that, by the way. It's a really cool movement to get people involved in engagement. So that's all good stuff over there for sure. So everybody, if you're trying to get a hold of more content like this, you can check us out over on notradeclause.com. We also have our socials, No Trade Clause, one word, on Instagram. Over on X, we are at No Trade _clause. Graphics, podcast clips, articles, you name it. It's all over there for you guys to check out. So thanks everybody again for sticking with us through this episode. We really appreciate it. And we hope to catch you on the next installment of the NTC podcast. Until then, take care, everybody.